Thank you, everybody. Welcome to the April meeting of the Radnor Parks and Recreation Board. We'll start with Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right. Did everybody on the board have an opportunity to review the minutes from our March meeting? And if so, do I have a motion to approve it?
I'll make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Tammy, would you be kind enough, and is it a good time for you to provide your monthly report? Great.
Good evening. Tonight I thought it was best if I just come up to the podium and give my report. I haven't given a detailed one in a couple months, so might go into a little bit of depth this month. So March, April, May, this is a very exciting time of the year for our department. We have a lot of things going. We have a blend of winter, spring, summer. It's the most exciting part of our lineup in terms of community events. Although all of our events are exciting, of course, throughout the year. But April's a very, very busy time for us. And we're also gearing up for summer and the summer camps that are happening. So I wanted to take a little time and kind of focus on that. I have a couple videos I want to show. First, I want to point out in your packet, there's a copy of our spring and summer recreation brochure. So I want to make sure you have an opportunity to take a look at that. We tried not to print too many copies of it because we don't want to kill too many trees. We try to ration those back as much as we can and circulate them electronically. But if you get a chance, take a look. All four of our staff members have a big role in putting that together in various ways, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of tweaking. So I really want to take an opportunity to thank Heather, Tracy, and Lizette for all the time and efforts that they put in. There's a lot of information, a lot of stuff about health and wellness, a lot of information on the community events, the summer camps, and there's really no shortage on the things that we have happening this spring and this summer. And there's a variety of things. There's outdoor activities related to nature and environmental type activities. There's creative things, educational things. We have theater. There's a wizarding camp that we'll have this summer in the 11th year, Radnor Day Camp. We also have a new skateboarding clinic that's sold out that we'll have this spring. So there's really a plethora of things available, and we're always open to new ideas and suggestions. So if you get a chance, take a look at it. Of course, any questions, let me know. We had our first, we'll call it the inaugural Mother-Son Superhero event. This is a first mother-son event that we've ever had, so it's a new one for us. We've had a lot of things for daddies and daughters, mothers and daughters. So I want to take a minute to show the video that Radnor Studio 21 put together as far as the event occurred on March 24th, and give you a chance to see all the exciting things that happened there.
We are getting ready for our first ever mother-son superhero event, and it's a brand new event we have. We've done things with dads and daughters, things with moms and daughters, so we wanted to do something with the sons. So this is our first mother-son superhero event, and it was originally supposed to take place in January. We got rescheduled now till March, and we're really excited for the beginning of hopefully a new yearly tradition here in Radnor.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. They have an obstacle course that we're going through now to train the kids to be superheroes. So they're sliding on this skateboard thing, and then they're going through this web, and then they're trying to defeat some evil something or another. And then they're going through a Wolverine balloon tunnel. It's a lot of fun.
Our age range for the superheroes is 5 to 12. So we split them up in groups according to age so that they're with some of their friends that are their own age, but also so that they're going through the activities and the elements with people at the same pace. And we have more younger kids that have come out to this event than the older kids, but I think we have a pretty even span there between our 5, 6, and 7-year-olds, and then, 8 all the way up to 12.
Anything that the township does, we usually try to sign up for so that we can participate and meet other families. It gives us a chance to get to go out with just one-on-one time for him and I, so it's great.
We were challenging each other, battling each other, racing, diving, right? We were having fun, enjoying each other's company, seeing some friends, making some new friends, saw some familiar faces in town. We loved everything about it.
So Tracy Kroom is our event coordinator, and she had really done a lot of the backbone work to put this together. So between she and I and our director, Tammy Cohen, and our recreation assistant, Lizette Subak, we have all kind of come together and finalized the bits and pieces to make it really flow. But it's really kind of the brainchild of Tracy and Tammy as well. They really collaborated together to make it happen, and she's the one who really organized it, sent messages out, and communicated with the parents. And, this is kind of one of the biggest new events that she's put together, and it's really great to see her creativity and her skills at work from start to finish.
We cannot do this event without the help of our Board of Commissioners, without our help of our Parks Board, our department. It's all the different departments in the township actually help us with this. Public Works with the trucks, police helps us with getting the word out. We also have different companies that come in and help support. Today we have Orange Theory Fitness with us. They have a couple raffles for the moms and sons today. But we really can't do this without the support of many different people, and it's really nice to see it come together on event day.
Today we're supporting mothers and sons that are coming to Radnor Middle School for the superhero event, and it's really fun. They're doing some interval training, and the marketing team really wanted to come out here and support all these parents and sons and help them get through this tough challenge.
So they're going to start here actually as Superman, and they're going to fly across the floor. So they're going to lay on their bellies. They're going to fly all the way across the floor down to the next station. Once they're done flying like Superman, they're going to hop right up, grab their Hulk cans, and give this big wall a nice punch and knock it all the way down until it's just rubble here. And then from there, they're going to come on over to Spider-Man's web crawl. And now the great thing here is that if they touch the web, it's okay because they're superheroes. They're not going to get stuck in Spider-Man's web. Only the bad guys get stuck in there. So they're going to crawl all the way through here, in and out, weave their way through the web. And then that's where they're going to grab their Captain America shield, throw it at Thanos, and take him out. Once they've taken out Thanos, they're going to hop their way through this next obstacle. They're going to kind of tumble and roll over the mats. Because this is all part of the superhero training, they have to make sure they're agile and fit to be able to beat the bad guys and the villains. And then over here we have Wolverine's balloon tunnel, because even though Wolverine's super fierce, he's got his really strong claws that could pop all these balloons. He's so agile and fit that he can crawl through here without popping a single balloon. So they're going to crawl right through here and make their way out, and we'll have completed their training for superheroes.
So this is one of the 3 stations that our families will be participating in today. They will be making superhero slime, where we have preset colors where they can choose whether they'd like Thor yellow or Spider-Man red, and they'd be mixing it together. It's a stretchy slime, and it's just a fun activity for them to do. In addition, they're going to be making hand sanitizer Lego bottles. So we have all of our Lego pieces that they're going to stick in with their long sticks and just make a nice keepsake to take home. So this is one of the stations that we're really excited to debut this year. At the end of the event, once our mother-son superhero teammates have completed their task and they've officially become superheroes, they're going to receive a trophy that is personalized with their names on it. And then there's also a certificate for both the mother-son duo. It's just something special for them to walk away with and kind of treasure for hopefully them to come back next year. And we would like it to become like a tradition for the family.
I have not seen it anywhere else. I think it's wonderful. I think this is great. It balances out, with father-daughter type of events. There's a lot of traditions around that, and there aren't so many around mother-son things. So this is great.
It's important because I don't really get to hang out with my mom that much because I have so many sports to do, and I have school and a lot of other things like piano, so we don't
This is a good
spend
time, right? This is
Yeah.
a good couple of hours to just hang out together.
It's important that he sees a strong female in his life that can be a superhero just as much as the Hulk or Superman. So we're racing and, challenging each other, and he sees me, that it's okay for women to be strong and mommy can do it too.
Since this event is so unique, and I honestly am not aware of anyone else doing something similar to this, especially not for mothers and sons specifically, maybe people do other type of Nerf birthday parties or Nerf programs, but just for kids, this is something unique we have that ties the mom and the son together. And we think it's really important to be able to offer these unique opportunities for Radnor Township residents because it really sets our township apart. A lot of the feedback that we hear from our residents is that they're so thankful to have these opportunities because it makes the quality of life living here in Radnor Township something special, and it sets it a little bit higher than maybe some of the surrounding neighborhoods. It's something that they can really hold on to and be proud of where they live because they have such great opportunities that they can participate in.
It's kind of unique, and it shows that Radnor can be a team if they get together in a community.
Getting people involved in the community and making it fun to live here. And my experience growing up, we never had anything like this where I live. So this is wonderful.
We've never heard of this before, and we like our community, so it's kind of fun to be a part of it. And this is just up the street from our house, so Radnor's a pretty special place.
So we want to take an opportunity, of course, to thank Radnor Middle School. Originally, this was an event that was supposed to be held at Radnor Activity Center, so we did have to relocate it, and the school district was great to work with in relocating it. It was supposed to happen in January. It ended up being in March. Even though we lost a few people that withdrew, originally we had sold it out at, I believe, 70 participants. We ended up with about 60, so we did pretty good, and we're excited to bring it back next year. Next, I want to show another video from the Spring Extravaganza event. It was in its 9th year, believe it or not, already at Villanova University, which has been there for 6 of the 9 years. And it was a picture-perfect day, as you will see on Sunday. So we're here at the Extravaganza. It's the Spring Extravaganza. It's basically a bunch of egg hunts available for the community. We have 4 different age groups this year, a 0 to 2 group, a 3 to 5 group, a 6 to 8 group, and then a 9 and up group, which is really like our 9 through teen group. So folks will have an opportunity to come and have an egg hunt. Of course, they won't be looking for them under rocks or things like that. They're not really hidden. They're out here on the open field here at Villanova University at the stadium. And they have a chance to win all kind of exciting prizes. Not only are there trinkets and candy and things like that hidden in each of the eggs, but there's also prize strips that are hidden in some of the eggs, and folks will have an opportunity to redeem those for things like mountain bikes. We have Trek mountain bikes that were partially sponsored by Trek. Villanova gift prizes, gift cards from different businesses like Bach to Rock. Nothing But Cakes is joining us here this year for the first time. Lots of little trinkets and toys. We have gift baskets that the township put together. So it's more than just, I think, your typical egg hunt with candy and trinkets. We try to really beef it up with a whole variety of prizes.
It's a great event. It's been going on for 9 years. It brings the community together, and it's just a wonderful event for our Radnor families to be part of.
Well, this is our first time up here, so we had lots of fun. We came early. The kids got to jump in the bouncy houses, and then we had the Easter egg hunt. It's so enjoyable for the kids. It's a great community. My son got to see kids from school, kids from the neighborhood, so it's a good sense of community.
Well, the great thing is we actually purchased pre-filled eggs. So, we have about 30,000 eggs this year. I will say that we did cut back the plastic, so folks still have an opportunity to pick up things like candies and treats and toys, but we did cut back some of the eggs, so there wasn't as much plastic being wasted, so just trying to be more environmentally friendly and environmentally savvy.
Well, I think one of the things that our township staff does such a great job of doing is creating opportunities to build community, and I think that this is a great way to do that. You have everyone come out on a beautiful day, see neighbors that you don't get to see all the time, people that you've met in other places that you don't necessarily see every day. I think it's really important, and we thank Villanova for being a good community neighbor and letting us have it here, and appreciate all the hard work of our township staff. Tammy Cohen and her staff, they do an amazing job.
I know a lot of folks in the community come with their friends, come with their neighbors. It's something that they try to do together. It's downtime. It's not like structured sports and activities and, the daily hustle and bustle of going to school.
it's kind of laid back, it's fun, folks can get out, they can enjoy the nice weather. So I think it's about that community aspect, and it's also about the partnership with Villanova. Villanova has dedicated a lot of resources in order to make this event possible. So I think it helps them build their partnership and, make their stake within the community, and so folks can see them as more than just a university, but they're an institution here in the township that's willing to work with people, invite folks to their campus, and build those positive relationships.
We do a lot of prep with the township beforehand. We have to work with them to get the vendors approved. We also have student government volunteers here today that they're manning the bouncy castle. I believe we have face painters, and so Tammy from the township and I worked very closely together just to make sure we had volunteers here, to make sure we talked about different eggs. It's so incredible to watch, the arm go down and everyone just go out on the field and get their eggs. And Villanova provides prizes for each prize group. So we went to the bookstore, got some water bottles, some hats. We do provide tickets to a game at Wells Fargo for the 2019-20 season.
There's a bunch of people from all around Radnor, showing up just to, table, as well as, people from as far as Delaware coming just to show up for the event. We're all really excited about it. Student government has been helping set up. We were here at 8 with the Township just to get all these cones set up and the tape set up, and then dispersing all the eggs. It's been a lot of effort from a lot of people, and we're really excited about it.
It brings people together from different parts of the main line. So I think it's nice and brings different sort of local vendors here to, marketing purposes and all of that. So it's very nice. We go to Wynwood stuff like this, but it's not as comprehensive as this is.
It's important because you don't always get to meet anyone else in the community. I mean, everyone goes to work, comes home, and you just are dealing with family things. So it's nice having a day where the kids and everyone can get out and just have a good time.
I think just looking around you can see, look at how many people are here. All of our neighbors are out. I've seen multiple township officials here. We've got township staff. We've got the Bryn Mawr Fire Company. It's a great way for the community to get together. The kids are happy. They're on the bouncy castles. It's just a great way to see your neighbors. We live in a time where everyone's at practice and band camp and doing this, that, and the other thing. So to get out here on a Sunday and to be able to have what looks like hundreds of people enjoying themselves, that's really important to us, because the university is just so excited and proud to be a neighbor in Radnor Township.
So, as you can see, great day on Sunday. Everybody was happy. I know we were really excited, and we can't thank Villanova, of course, enough for the partnership and the facility, because I don't know how else we would be able to accommodate it. And I would say if we had to guess, it probably was a few thousand who were in attendance at the event. I don't believe it was as crowded as it had been in past years, so I think folks definitely walked away with a nice basket of eggs and lots of opportunities for great prizes, so we were excited. And also want to take a minute just to thank David Otto, who's a big sponsor of our event there and allows us to be able to afford a lot of the things that we fund through the program. So it's not cheap to put it together, no. By no means. So a couple of other quick things. We have the Trout Derby coming up next Friday and Saturday. Despite it being Good Friday, it actually ended up being a total sellout event. So for anybody who's looking to go to the event, they did need to pre-register. So obviously the holiday weekend didn't deter anybody or chase anybody away. I know the weekend of the 27th and 28th, we have the free tree giveaway being led by the Radnor Conservancy. That was another sellout of trees, which is exciting. So there'll be a lot of great trees being planted throughout Radnor throughout this spring. Arbor Day and the annual celebration for Arbor Day is going to be on Friday, April 26th. We're going to be at Hartford Park this year. So if you can make it, that'll be great. We're going to be planting some trees. The Radnor Conservancy will be there. We've invited members of Mainline School Night and the Hartford Park Dog Club to be on hand as well, along with township leadership and officials, the Public Works Department. And I want to take a minute just to kind of point out for this year's event, we're going to be receiving the coveted Growth Award for Arbor Day. So it's a tier up than just the normal recognition each year. And we're receiving it thanks to Jane Golis and her husband, Matt Golis, who I know are here with us this evening. So I want to take an opportunity to thank thank Jane. I know she and her husband put in a lot of time and effort. They did a full survey of the street trees throughout the township. Thousands of trees, I believe, and they're not finished. They're still working through it, so we have them to thank for that achievement. So we'll be excited. I know she won't be able to be at the ceremony that we have the night of Arbor Day, but wanted to have a chance to point that out. And then, of course, we have Wheels of Wayne that'll be coming up on Sunday, May 5th. Also, just want to point out that May 19th is the rain date, not the 14th or the 12th, I believe, due to Mother's Day. Just want to say thank you for the time to be able to get up here and speak. I know we have some park project and updates I'll go through later on in the meeting, if that's okay.
Great.
So unless anybody has any questions, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight.
Any questions for Tammy? Tammy, thanks for the videos on those two events. Superhero looked like it was a great success, so congratulations.
Thank you, and thanks to Radnor Studio 21. They've been outstanding, coming to many of our programs and our events and capturing lots of great footage and great editing behind it as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Other reports. Claire's not here this evening, so I'm not sure we have a shade tree report unless somebody else has a report on that. Chuck or Andrew, anything from the school board that we should be aware of? No? You guys smooth sailing over there at school district? Good. Glad to hear it. John, anything from the BOC that we should be aware of?
Well, the big thing this week was we approved purchasing the comfort station for Emlyn Tunnell.
Thank you.
And remind everybody again that the 29th is capital projects special meeting. So if you can make it, it'd be really good to be heard.
What time is that meeting, John? Do you know offhand?
No, I don't.
Okay. We'll try and get that out. All right, thank you. Let's move on to old business. Last month, we had a nice presentation from a group that was looking to put together a youth mountain biking team in Radnor, and had talked about proposing the putting of a trail in at Odoricio. I know a number of our board members have been out and had a chance to walk the wooded area out there a little bit to get a little better feel from it. We've seen a number of emails and correspondence come through our board during that time with feedback from various constituents with regard to that. I don't think we're missing three members this evening, so I don't think we're going to be in a position to look to make any kind of proposal, et cetera, with regard to this tonight, but we did want to bring it back up as a piece of old business and give anybody in the on this board who has an opinion or has some thoughts on it a chance to talk about what they saw and what their thoughts are, and also give the public a chance to talk about it if anybody here is interested in that as well. So I'm going to start with my commissioners up here, or my board members up here, to see if anybody has any comments with regard to the Odoricio Park proposed plan for a mountain bike trail.
I'll start.
Great.
I just scribbled down a bunch of thoughts. I was out there over the weekend, and I think as I shared with you guys, I was there for all of like 60 seconds, and I came across some wildflowers, native wildflowers that usually are the highlight of my spring. It's one of the first wildflowers that blooms in the spring. It's called Sanguinaria canadensis, or bloodroot, leading me to be concerned about what else might be back there. A lot of wildflowers are ephemerals. They're spring ephemerals. They do their thing before the trees leaf out, and then they kind of go back into the ground. So you really have to know where they are and mark those places to be able to avoid them later. Because if you're wondering where they are in June or July, you're not going to have any sign where they are. So you have to be out there. So I raised that just because there are a number of factors I think we need to consider concerning whether we go ahead with this or not. I know I personally am not ready to rule it in or rule it out. I just feel I need more information. I don't have enough of a record here to feel like I can make a reasoned decision. So among the things I think I need to know are if we were to build a trail, where could it be located in such a way that it wouldn't damage native wildflowers? And of course, I'm pretty sure there are some out there. And again, it's going to be hard to do that at this time of year. You really have to kind of go through, almost through the middle of the summer to find out where they're popping up. Will not damage tree roots, or trees, but tree roots. Won't cause or increase any soil erosion. Will be wide enough, long enough, level enough, inclined enough, safe enough, whatever, to accommodate what the bike club wants, what the team wants. Will not materially interfere with wildlife. In the time I was out there, there were a lot of different species of birds. You could hear them from their songs, obviously getting ready for nesting. So we don't want to frighten away two kinds of woodpeckers, a white-throated sparrow, Carolina wren, and the woodchuck I tripped over. If he's not in the woods, he's going to be in somebody's garden, so I kind of like him better in the woods. I think we need to keep in mind that mountain bike trails, if they're built, will be and should be available to everybody in the township. So when we think about the cost benefits, we don't just think about the mountain biking team. We have to think about others who will probably say, hey, this looks like fun, whether they're on the team or not. So when we're thinking about volume of usage and parking and all that kind of thing, I don't think we want to limit ourselves to the mountain bike team. We have to, I don't know how we do that, but we have to come up with some sort of rough estimate of who else will it attract and what will the impact, the burden on the park be for that. We have to keep in mind that, although I think we were all very impressed with the responsible attitude that the mountain bike team displayed last month, some of these non-team members might not have the same sort of responsible attitude. Again, it doesn't necessarily rule things out, but it's a factor we need to consider. It seems like a fun, albeit potentially dangerous, activity. I'd like to provide as many opportunities, I'm sure we all do, for different types of recreation as we can. Especially outdoor recreation. So I'd love to see this be a possibility, but again, there's going to be cost benefits here, and I think we need to know what all the costs are and weigh them against all the benefits. I don't think we're there yet. Some more thoughts. I was doing a little research. We're going to get groans on this, but in terms of limiting impact, I'm not saying this is necessarily a good idea for us, but one thing I thought of is to keep the volume of users down, if that's a factor, if we think that's an important factor. I think the city, Philadelphia, requires permits for mountain biking in Wissahickon Valley Park. So, if we think that volume of usage is a problem, maybe that's something to think about. Maybe we don't think volume of usage is a problem. I also thought about maybe we pilot this. Maybe we go out there, and after we've done our little mini environmental impact assessment and determined, okay, we think we know where all the wildflowers are, we think we know where the tree roots are, we could probably make a path here. Check it out for a year and see if it works. I mean, if it works, okay. If it doesn't work, that's the end of mountain biking in there. You can use the trail that was built for a hiking trail. So it won't be wasted effort. That's just a possibility. Last time we discussed visiting the mountain biking facility in Tredyffrin. Did that happen? Did I miss it, or is that still something we can do? I think that would be really helpful.
Something we could do. Really,
really helpful. I have been along the Wissahickon, so I know what that looks like. I also know the impact that it makes. Finally, we should consider other township properties which might be suitable for the team, but maybe don't have as many environmental or other impacts as the Odorriccio location. Again, I'm really torn. I'd love to see this form of recreation be made available because it sounds like a really good opportunity. It's not baseball, it's not lacrosse, not everybody's into that stuff. But again, there's pros and cons. I want to know all the pros, I want to know all the cons, and then I want to make a balanced, sound decision. So that's where I am.
It's a lot of great feedback, Mary. Thank you. And a lot of things that certainly I wouldn't have thought of with regard to this. I appreciate you bringing some of those ideas and perspectives in for some of us who maybe aren't as experienced with some of the nature impacts.
Yeah,
so
thanks.
thank you. Any other? Howard?
Yes, Howard.
Well, like I said before, I played in those backwoods and everything, but some things I didn't think about, and I went walking with Miss Jane Gallus. I think it's a. Yes, that's it. How you doing? We walked through there and everything, and even before I got to the woods, I had to think about some other things, the traffic, the impact on the traffic on that neighborhood. Just last weekend, there was an event at the church, that was from 12 to about 6 o'clock. And there's limited street parking, and then all that overflow parking goes to the park. So that's depending upon, even if it's in the afternoon on a weekend, it's going to impact the community there. That was just my biggest thing. If you've got to get past the avenue and the traffic first. We walked through the park and the nature of the park, and just seeing the groundhog there. I walked through one day and saw that, and then when I did get to the top of the hill and we looked back on where we had just been, I just don't see it myself being big enough for a training session for kids on a mountain bike to get any real training back there. For me, when we rode through there, it was just like we're going through it, and we're going from point A to point B, which was nothing really in between, and it's not even large enough to break a real sweat to really get some training, in my opinion. The other thing was we've already got enough things going on in that park. The basketball, the soccer, the baseball, and then the playground. And I mean, just to tackle this onto it you would be just stuffing some more stuff in something that I really don't think could handle the traffic of it. And get back to the parking situation. The RTCA, which is Radnor Township Civic Organization, that building is being restored right now. And they have a lot of their events on the weekends and during the evenings during the week. Again, the big thing there is going to be traffic. It comes back to limited parking on the street, and then most of the parking will be done in the park. And during the park, during the evenings, you've got a lot of basketball playing back there. Not only the RTCA, you've got the church, and what other things? And then you have the baseball teams. When they park, if it's a large, I'm not sure if they even do the Legion games there anymore, but if they do that, the overload comes to the other end of the park as well. So you've still got that small area of parking again, plus the basketball players, and that was some of the things that we ran into when we were back there playing as kids. So even before you get to the park, the wooded area where they want to put the trail, there's a lot you have to consider, the traffic. You have to consider that neighborhood, and I'm sure it's not going to be too friendly to all the traffic coming in. And then the last thing I want to say about the parking is you have an AA meeting there at the church on Saturdays from 7 to 8, and I know that's kind of late, but still, they use the park for their parking, and that parking lot is full. So there's a lot of neighbors that are going to be impacted by this traffic that's coming through there. I'd love to see the bike trail take place, but I just don't think, in my opinion, I just don't think Autorisio Park is the place for it. There's already a whole lot of things going in there. And to be able to walk through those parks, that park in the back there, and just see the nature, it opened up my eyes to what was right in my backyard, and I hadn't been back there for years. And I remember going back there as a kid, and just, it was my playground. But now to go back there as an adult and just being able to walk through there and listen to the quietness, the woodpecker, man. Wasn't quiet. Yeah, exactly. But the way the trees are falling down. I mean, kids went back there, and you could see where some of the kids that used that place as a fort sometimes. Not necessarily to do anything big, but just some place to go and be together, So all those things that the park brings, I think that this bike path would rob Autorisio Park of just being a part of nature where you can just go and relax and have a nice little walk through without going to Valley Forge Park or something like that. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Howard, thank you. It's a great perspective from the local community right there, so we appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, one of the great things about this board and having debate is there can be different perspectives, and we can all hash them through. I had a very marked different markedly different feeling when I was there this past weekend. The first thing that struck me was how bad a shape those woods are. I tried to walk through them. I found them to be totally unusable except for the critters as a means of connecting with nature. That the lower portion below the quarry with the open grass fields are lovely and wonderful, and certainly if this were to move forward, I'd have a concern if we were going to utilize any of that for a trail. But one of the things that I was encouraged to hear our young people here a few weeks ago talk about was the stewardship and trying to remedy the vines. I know we've had presentations about Bo Connor, about the vines and how invasive they are and how they are really damaging our trees. And that was the first thing that struck me is there's a lot of work that could use to be done in there, and these folks might be a really good way to do it. I was struck at this in the opposite way, Howard, how large it was back there. I just had I'd been there hundreds of times, but never had crested the hill beyond the basketball court. And I have to defer to the folks who are involved in the activity as to whether or not it's sufficient for their needs. I certainly think Mary raised a whole huge host of very important concerns, which I would share the same reticence about until we have answers on those, whether that's an appropriate place. And as for the traffic, I've been there hundreds of times. I've never had a hard time finding a parking spot. Maybe just the times I've been there, it's been an issue. And my impression was that the primary use of this was going to be A, as a training ground, and B, as an after-school training ground. And I believe there was some suggestion that its proximity to Radnor Middle School made it appealing, and that the kids could actually perhaps get there from the middle school without needing to congest it with cars and whatnot. So I thought it was a suitable spot. I thought that part of the park is extremely underutilized and could use a sprucing up, and this might be a nice symbiotic relationship between the desires of the folks with the mountain bike team and the needs of the park. But I still would agree with Mary that we have some work to do to try to figure out some feasibility issues. I had some concern about the quarry and the large drop-off there, and it's a very rusted, old, I'm not sure how secure fence that would keep our friends of any kind. And this might be a general question beyond the use as a trail as to whether or not that's a sufficient barrier to keep folks from taking a nice 30-foot plunge into a rocky bed. But beyond that, I think I've addressed the concerns. I agree with some of the things that have been said here. I think it's worth investigating and pursuing and looking into, and I'd love to have a home for these folks. And if it didn't work out that this would be a place, and I'm certainly open to looking at other locations, because I was very impressed with the presentation, and it sounded like their mission and respect for the parks parrots a lot of the things that we strive for and we say up here on this dais, and our Board of Commissioners does. So I'd like to see if we can make this work as a partnership in some fashion. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Yep. I was impressed with the presentation, and I think it's a organization and an event and an activity that could help, I guess, enlarge the opportunities that our kids have. So I'm very interested in doing that and continuing to study where it should go. So I think there were so many good questions that were raised. I'm, believe it or not, unfamiliar with that end of Quarry Park, or Odoricio Park, I'm sorry. So I would spend more time and go there and see exactly what we're talking about as far as the flowers and the, it's almost a pleasure of a passive area, because we in Radnor have spent an enormous amount of money so people can see open areas and have view vistas and all these different things that we spent here. And this is something that I think a lot of people do treasure, the fact that you can just kind of walk around and listen to the animals and see the flowers and different things like that. So as a park board, I think it would be, we do have to do our due diligence and see whether this is the right fit for the right place, for the right community, for the right uses. Now that brings me to another point which we had discussed, and I'm not sure whether we do that here. Many of you may or may not know, I was with the Delaware County Parks Department for 9 years, and I curious of our master plans that are related to our parks, whether we pursue those, whether we have those. When we did the Clemacrone, did we have a master plan that we followed for that? Was that part of a plan that we're looking into the future of how we're using our park facilities, or?
Ironically,
it's a question that I don't know. I don't know the answer.
The last master plan was done in 1991 on our parks. John Nagel had actually just given this to me before the meeting. And I can tell you, we really don't follow it. It's been sitting on the shelf.
Well, since 1991, but I think as someone who, we did follow our master plan. All of our parks did have master plans, and that would make it easier for us, or for myself anyway, on a board, if I knew that we had looked at this particular park and what are some of the things that the community itself and the smaller community that's around it, how they would like to see that park used and the facilities before we begin to insert our particular views in it. Not to say that we can't do that, because like you said, they did that in 1991.
We did it again later, though, when we started to embark on Clemacrone.
Okay, so...
And there was a master plan that was developed. It wasn't that one from 1991. In fact, it doesn't look anything like that. There were remarkable changes when we moved the comfort station to the front of the park and added the walking path and some of the other things. But I know this has been a park that's been long discussed about a similar project to the like of the way Clemacrone unfolded, where there was resident input, community input. We know we have a lot of dynamics throughout the entire park. Lots of aging infrastructure within the park, with the comfort station and the playground. So not to drift too far, but I know that has been some of the feedback that I have heard continuously, that folks desire something very similar, at least to have an opportunity to talk about, the long-term plan of the park, because there are impacts with the neighborhood and the community being so close, similar to Macrone.
And when they did Clemacrone Park, you talked about having community events or community meetings. I know just for Veterans Park when we did that, remember you did that when you brought somebody in and we had the neighbors come and we had everybody discussing on the impact of what we may want to do. So at this point, it's beyond me to make it, to come up with any kind of a decision, except for that we do need to get more information about it.
Just one other dynamic I just want to make sure is, I think we talked about this last month, was that it is a park that's partially owned by Radnor School District as well as Radnor Township. So the wooded area, the approximate 13 acres of the wooded area in which we're discussing is the township's ownership, and then the other part with the ball field. I don't know the exact boundaries, but the frontage of the park with regards to the parking lots and the playground area and the comfort station and the basketball court, I believe, are all owned by the school district, just as a point of reference.
Right, but I'm not making a difference of the two at this point. I'm talking as a park board person. Later, we can get into how much we own, because a lot of our park, school board members, myself included, don't realize how much of that park that we do own. I didn't realize that until the other day. Somebody brought that to my attention, so. It's a newfound property that we have.
Uh-oh.
Thank you, Chuck.
So a few comments here. First of all, just following up from the last meeting that we had, lots of good information, informative presentations, lots of people coming from the community to air their opinions, nice range of opinions. I think a couple things just to kind of recap. And my position right now on this is that we're still gathering information, and I haven't come down on one side of this or another, but I think we can all agree that we need more quiet places in our township for people to just take a walk, enjoy nature. That's something that you'll read in scientific reports in the mass media, that people need to get out more, take a walk in the woods, relax. So there are health benefits to that, obviously. But then on the other hand, you have kids that came during the last meeting saying, hey, we found a good activity to go outside, get some fresh air, enjoy physical activity. So you have that to weigh as well. So Claire, who couldn't be here tonight, she provided a couple pages of a report with some photos, very informative for me. sort of like Chuck was saying, I have not taken I've not had a detailed look at the property. I've not spent a lot of time on the property at the park, so that is also sort of informing my sense of things now. There was something that was brought up last time that if there were a bike trail, that a bike club would be participating in keeping up the trails, or at least helping to or chipping in to keep up those trails. So that's something also, I think, the maintenance of the trails, something to be considered as well. One final thought. I guess it's like a part whole issue, I guess. The park should have an identity as a place to have multiple uses. And so the trail, I think, we haven't seen anything about how much the trail would take up of the park, for example. So if it takes up a small part of the park, okay, so it's not now like a mountain bike trail park, right? And we talked about that last time, as it's not necessarily going to be like a destination for mountain bikers. But just if it's contained to a particular part of the park, that sounds pretty compelling. And also, as part of Claire's report, and something that Bill mentioned, the part of the park where it's sort of being considered to have the trail, it could use some considerable upkeep right now. So there are lots of interesting pros and cons about it right now. I mean, Howard, when listening to you, and also Mary, hearing your points about just leaving it as it is, a nice place to take a walk, quiet, enjoy the nature as it is. Very compelling, but also if there's a good use for it, Claire makes this point, if there's a good use for it, for activity, kids getting outside, hard to say no to that. So, thanks.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
One clarifying question. If we do have the bike trail that you put in, it could also be used to walk upon, correct? So in one sense, if it's not being used actively by the bikers, we are, in a sense, putting in a trail that could be walkable, right? And, okay, that was just a question.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, Chuck, that's a great point. As I was trying to make my way through that particular wooded part, I thought, boy, it'd be great to have some makeshift path, if even not as developed as a bike trail, because it's a wonderful, I was really impressed. It's a gem back there. Really is.
Me too. I was back there thinking, why don't we have a nature trail back here? And you're right that there are a lot of invasives back there. The place is full of privet and some other things, and it would be nice to get rid of that stuff. But I practically live in Skunk Hollow on those trails back there, and I walked through Odorisio. I thought, this is pretty nice, bigger than I thought, and pretty nice. And at a minimum, I hope we get some sort of nature trail through there, if not also a mountain biking trail, because people should have should be encouraged to go out there and walk it. It's really lovely.
Great, thank you. What I'll do is open up to public participation with regard to this topic.
First, thank you for that round robin. That was great comments.
I'm sorry, would you mind telling us who you are and where you live, sir?
Eric Jansen, Wayne.
Thank you.
Mary's comments were right on. Howard, I'd just like to point out that any concerns about traffic all depend on what time it's being used. And I don't know the exact times, but it's something to pay attention to. As was pointed out, it's the woods back there are in pretty bad shape. And if you're interested, the entire parcel is 24.8 acres, plus or minus. Radnor Township School District owns about 9.5 acres. 13.2 acres is the area that we're talking about. So it's a lot bigger than anybody realizes, because that front part is actually pretty open. And that's where people go. That's where the trash is. That's where the forts are. That's where the cliff is. And then there's all that area you can't get to. And you can't really see the wildflowers back there if you don't have a trail. So, the other thing that I heard tonight from a commissioner is that maybe the tax rolls and maybe it's not owned by Radnor Township. Maybe the school district owns the whole thing. That's not what the tax records say, but John, you're still here. John mentioned to me that he thought that the tax records were wrong, and he's the second commissioner who I've heard that from. So I don't know what the truth is, but I think it would be important to find that out. I personally think this is a great idea. I'd also like to point out that those of you that walked it, I guess there was a sewer project up at the top part that went all the way through. And last time I mentioned the fact that it would be nice to have a trail that went straight through to Maplewood, that then could go down Maplewood, not walking on the road. There's plenty of room in the right-of-way, and there's a way to get over the bridge and over to Brook Farm Trail, which then would take you down to the Willows. So there's an opportunity to put another kind of trail there that would connect the Radnor Trail over to the Willows that I think is important. So as you've all said, there's a lot of multiple uses here. And taking into account all the facts, rather than a lot of opinions that I've heard, I mean, there's a lot of information that has to be gone through, so obviously no one's making a decision tonight, but I think it's great the progress that's been made already. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, if I may. Of the 25 acres of the park, 15 of the acres are owned by the township that do comprise the wooded area, which is 13.3. The balance is a strip of land that basically goes through includes the parking lots on the, what runs parallel to Highland Avenue. I can show you a parcel if you're interested in seeing it, if you want to look at that in the overhead, but we had a real estate assessment done back in 2011 that produced this information. So unless it was radically wrong, which I don't believe it was, because I know leading up to last meeting, I did look at it with the community development director just to see what the county had on file, and that's what they have. So unless that information's incorrect, that's what we have as fact.
Sammy, is it possible that picture you're talking about can be uploaded to the websites so that, I don't know if there's a separate link for this discussion that we're having yet, but is there a possibility of putting a link up and then having that on there so people can take a look at that as opposed to just showing it right now for us?
We can put one up there. Sure, we can look at that.
I think that'd be great.
I'm sorry. I thought you were done. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm good.
Okay. Tammy, in terms of just real-world application of those, the acreage, school district versus township, it was my understanding that it's the township portion is essentially flag-shaped, with the parking lot that's immediately adjacent to the playground area, up to the wooded area and across, and the school district would have the upper parking lot, the baseball field, and then maybe into some of the woods. Is that generally the geometry there?
It is.
Okay.
It is based on what we have.
Okay. Oh, thank you, sir.
Great. Additional comments?
I can put it on the overhead if you want it at some point.
Sure. You know what? That'd be great if you could. We can continue with comments and throw that up there. Hi.
Hi, my name's Jackie Baver, and I live at 415 West Wayne Avenue, and I am directly across from the park, and I've been there for 25 years. So we raised our boys there. We used all parts of the park. I look out my front windows every day at the parking lots and the whole thing and see all the different activities that take place there. I've used to take my kids when they were little back there and try to walk through the woods and do some exploring as a different sort of an activity. And I would say, as you did, Bill, that to have a trail to use to get through would make that then accessible, and then you would have a nice hiking trail, multi-use trail. Sometimes the park's busy when it has activities. Most times when it's busy and they have parking, it's all up front on the West Wayne side, and they park crazily and nobody will walk around or drive around and use those back parking lots. I often see them very empty, thinking, these people, all you'd have to do is drive. There is plenty of parking back there. I do not see those parking lots utilized often. I mostly see empty space back there. I also don't see a ton of people using the basketball courts. Sometimes they're used, but it seems to be by neighborhood people. I do not see cars parked there to have a rousing basketball game on that. That's not the place where they go to play lots of league basketball. So I think that there's plenty of room for, parking for this little bit of activity. I just walked it again with my husband Sunday, like everybody else is going to check it out, and reviewed it, and was again amazed by how much room there is and how a weaving trail could be there that would benefit so many different folks for, to see the nature, to keep the trees healthier, to provide a different sort of an activity. I understand there's a lot of things that have to be worked out, and I know there may be bigger areas in the township, but it's just a nice area to round out that park, and it's so underutilized, and you can't get to it. And it's not safe as it is for anybody trying to do nature walks, and this could make it be accessible and safe. And I think it's an awesome idea, and I'd love to see it in my front yard. And my next door neighbor feels the same. She couldn't be here tonight, but it's just another great activity for that park. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Terry Lindsay. My home borders us 3 of the houses that border the park. So these folks that didn't see parking, I did. It blocks my entrance into my place most of the time. Until I park my truck in a certain spot that where they can't park, then I can get in after the parking lot is full. Because sometimes I've gone up there and asked people not to park in certain places. Now, as they have events, they have school buses and stuff coming back there and parking. So I don't see where nobody has seen these people parking. Now, you open up something back there, you're going to give a gift to some ungodly people to get in and get out real quick. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Okay, all right. Now, I don't know where the money comes from to do this, because the community don't want this. They want something else. Now, in your walk-arounds, did you knock on any door that borders that park?
I didn't do my walk. I will.
Nobody wants this in that neighborhood. They want it taken somewhere else. Now, that's what a mainly thing I got to say to you guys. You guys went walking and looking and saying, oh, this is great for somebody else, but the neighborhood don't want it. Does the neighborhood stand any part with you guys?
Well, absolutely. That's why we're having these conversations.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I'm asking. So somebody to think about the neighborhood and not people coming in to enjoy what the neighborhood is already being enjoying. Does that make any sense? Okay.
It does.
I give it up. Thank you.
Any additional public participation on this issue?
Hi, Jonathan Mount, 19 Lowry's Lane, and I am one of the 2 current coaches for the team. I want to dispel a couple of the myths that I think people have about mountain biking and the mountain biking trail. as someone who has been an avid mountain biker, but also someone who has been an avid hiker, including going to Colorado almost every other year to take hikes to 15,000 feet or more, one of the things that we're trained to do over the years is we want to stay off the wildflowers. And I hear Mary's concern about that. And of course, the rule is stay on the trail. And the reason we stay on the trail is because when you leave the trail, you do damage. The reality is when you develop a trail, people will limit the damage because they're following a trail, as opposed to walking through the woods wherever and then traipsing on the very things you're trying to protect. So the presence of a trail actually does more for preservation of the wildflowers and the wildlife than not having a trail. So just wanted to dispel that one. As for parking, I do hear the concerns of the neighborhood. Last year, as we were part of the Tredyffrin team, they have a much larger team than we would currently have. Most of the parents actually bring the kids, drop them off, come back and pick them up at the end of practice. It's not like there's a car parking for every single one of the kids that's coming to the practice. Many of the children are coming, multiple children coming with the same vehicle, including the coaches. Most of the coaches have a child that's involved. So if you've got 10 kids on a team, it's not like you're going to have 10 cars parking there. We're talking about very limited amount of parking that's taking place. I've also heard some comment about how much space it takes. When we have an event, or an actual race event, there are 750 students and somewhere around 1,000 to 1,500 adults that come to those events. The minimum size acreage they talk about for an event that size is 50 acres. We are not talking about having a race or anything like that. These are training sessions. For the next year or two, we anticipate anywhere from 10 to 20 children. We're talking about less than 80 hours a year of total time in the park to use the park for these events. No, I shouldn't say events. For practices, it's practices only. This is not talking about having races or events. There's a misconception that the kids are racing around the park, making a lot of noise. It's actually a very quiet activity. The kids are huffing and puffing and trying to breathe. They're not talking and yelling and screaming to one another. Most people would not even know the children are there. And quite frankly, the average speed they do is about 5 to 6 miles an hour. In other words, someone running through the woods is likely to actually be moving more quickly through the woods than these kids on mountain bikes. We're also not going up and down the hill, straight up and down the hill that would cause erosion problems. In fact, the proper placement of the trail actually reduces erosion and slows down the water flow across the slopes.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that for me, please?
It slows down the erosion because you are doing switchbacks that are parallel with the slopes. The kids don't want to ride straight up and straight down the hills. It's not what they're trying to do, and it's not good environmental practice. The trail design is to literally go parallel and do switchbacks. By doing that, you're actually creating little level parts in the path that slow the water and reduce the energy that causes the erosion that could occur.
Thank you.
I was in the park today, as a matter of fact, walking through, and it's very difficult in certain areas to actually even walk through because of the pricker bushes and whatnot. So you cannot access to see the wildlife or take advantage of the wildflowers without the presence of some form of trail. And essentially, I also found a lot of trash. Tredyffrin Easttown's team last year put in 400 hours of maintenance, volunteer. Heard a comment about budget. We're not asking for a penny. Not one penny of municipal money is asked for this to allow the students to develop and utilize the trail. Many of the training things that we do during training and practices are almost static events. We literally are talking about kids learning how to do certain maneuvers with their bike that we're not, riding around doing, 25 miles an hour up and down the street or up and down the hills and jumps and any of that kind of thing. As for the quarry area, one of the benefits, again, of having a trail is if you create a trail away from the quarry area, you're going to naturally direct the kids away from the dangerous part. If there's no trail there, someone stumbles across that, and it becomes a hazard. So I've heard some of the concerns. We share that. We think there are that we have some ways to help actually alleviate some of the current hazards and concerns without that will be there if there is no trail. You know, there is stewardship here. This is not something where we're not concerned about the wildlife or the environmental concerns. Quite frankly, quite the opposite is true. This is a very environmentally friendly thing that teaches the kids to be environmentally concerned. And again, this is supervised with adults. If it's not supervised with adults, it's going to be kids doing what they want to do by themselves. The amount of beer bottles and cans that I witnessed there in that park, and this is no representation of any difficulty with the Parks and Rec Board or what the municipal employees are doing. It's a trash heap, and a lot of it is alcoholic beverage bottles and cans. First of all, we'd be picking that up, and secondly, the activity, organized activity with adults, I would think would actually help reduce some of that, not increase it, because the possibility that you know adults are coming through goes up, and would help to helpfully take care of some of that nuisance. So you know those are some of the things that we've seen with these events. I would really encourage. Tredyffrin East Town's coach is very willing and happy to have you folks take a look at what they've done over in the parks. Over there, and to see this good stewardship that this is and represents. And this is a lifetime activity that these kids will learn and can go out and be healthy the rest of their lives. They don't need to go find 4 other guys to go play basketball or 18 to play baseball. They can get on their bike and go ride, and it's a lifetime of physical activity that keeps them healthy and happy and enjoying and being good stewards of the environment. So I thank you for your time and appreciate it very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Bowen. I've been a Radnor resident for 22 years, something like that at this point. That's a hard act to follow. He's going to be way more articulate, touched on a lot of excellent points. I'm not very good at this, so I apologize in advance. It sounds like there's a lot more information that needs to be collected. The one thing that I don't quite understand, though, is that it seems like there are 2 problems. One is that it's a very quiet space now, and we're hearing woodpeckers out there. And I'm also hearing that there's a lot of trash there, and parking's a problem, and noise is a problem. Not sure which one of those, not sure where the scales are falling, actually. But, you know, the things that I've heard that these folks are doing, it sounds like a really great thing. Everyone loves to complain about kids these days and their electronic devices, right? And here we have an opportunity to get them out in the woods and learning about stewardship and you know, athletic events and learning how to take care of trails and that sort of thing. And it's all sounds like a great thing, and especially in a piece of the township that by all accounts is unused and unmanaged. I won't use the word neglected, but it sounds like it will benefit from a lot of the attention that these folks and others will bring to it. So it sounds like a great idea, and I support it fully. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Doug Bruns. I'm the proud father of 2 of the kids that did the presentation a month ago. Just a couple points to talk about. You know, we have other great parks in this township. A lot of people rave about Ithan Valley Park and how great of a neat natural preserve that is, and you can walk through the trails and see all the nature and the animals there. The same thing with the Willows. And Ordorecio Park would be and should be the same kind of area for the Radnor Township. And what's great about Ordorecio Park, it is available to many of the Radnor residents in downtown Wayne, closer to Radnor Middle School, Wayne Elementary School, a greater population that can see nature. You can walk there. You can walk there from that Radnor Trail. You know, certainly there was lots of opposition to the Radnor Trail when that was built, and now those are the people that will actually put the private access to the Radnor Trail to enhance value for their homes. So this is a potentially great area. Certainly one of the myths of traffic. This Radnor, the bike team will certainly, many of the kids are local. They'll ride their bikes there. There's got to be no cars. There's got to be no traffic. And it's also a lot of drop off. Practice, there's about 4,000 daylight hours if you look at, the total year, and we really have organized practice about 80 hours. So less than 2% of the time. The rest of the time, it would be so that nature preserve. People go hiking back there, trail running. It could be environmental educational opportunities for the Parks and Rec Board. So I really feel this fits in with the mission of the Parks and Rec Board. It's an unwelcoming woods. It's an unmaintained area right now. And, the proposal from the Radnor bike team is to build trails, maintain them, and create a great space for nature. And I think this is something that the community would absolutely love and needs to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other participation?
Mr. Chairman, could I say something?
Sure.
Not about this specifically, but what I'm hearing there really are two discussions that need to take place. The first one is, do we even need a mountain bike trail? And we've faced this the 25 years or so that I've been involved, numerous times where groups will come to us and be asking for a recreation alternative. Probably hard to believe these days, but the lacrosse team at one time came to us because they couldn't get fields to use. And it's, the basketball program when it first started up. So this isn't new, but what is the size of the group? You need to evaluate, in my opinion, is the demand there to make it viable? The second and completely different question is, where should it be? Is Odoricio the right place? Is Skunk Hollow a better place? I mean, we've had people riding mountain bikes in Ithan Valley Park for years. So I'd like to see that broken into those two pieces and answer those two questions for us.
Thank you, John. I think lady in the back.
Chairman, I'm Jane Hill-Gullis. I'm Jane Gullis. I've lived right next door to Odoricio for 33 years. I went to the EAC to request an environmental impact statement about this proposal to build a 1.5-mile bike trail race course through Odoricio's woods, mature woods, of which it's the only mature woods in the western part of Radnor. I did a presentation there. I'm wondering, did you all see that?
I did.
It was up on the web, because I don't want to repeat that.
I
if you've
saw
all
it.
seen it. Okay, good. I think there's a lot of issues, just as John said, about whether or not there's enough demand for this, first of all, and whether or not Odoricio is the best place, the best venue for this. Odoricio is already being used by several organized sporting groups. There are fabulous baseball teams, our soccer teams. There is a well-used basketball court in the back corner of Odoricio. It was being used tonight. It's used several nights. They're pickup games. They're not used. But that's also part of having a park, is for people to come and use the park. It doesn't have to be organized. Odoricio is our neighborhood's backyard. It's used by the children. They generally only use the periphery if there's an organized sport going on. If you take away one more part of this park for an organized group, I don't think that's quite fair. That's just my opinion, though. But the other thing I think you also have to look for is that, I think you're going to have to vet this through several of the other committees, like the Shade Tree Commission. I think it's going to have to be vetted by the police department for parking, and through the stormwater management group. And so I think this has to be thoroughly studied if this is going to go forward in any of our parks, but especially if it's going forward in Odoricio. and I disagree with several other speakers. I think Ordorisio is well used now by nature and by the residents. We can all walk in Ordorisio as much as we'd like. I think if you build a trail in there for bikes, it's going to encourage other uses of that trail that may not be as well organized or well disciplined as these people are proposing their use if it's going to be. I've been on trails that have been used by mountain bikes in the Wissahickon, in other parks nearby, and they are usually pretty much, you know, not all of them, but they can get difficult. You know, they get muddy, they get rutted, they get this, they get that. And if bikers are using it, you're not going to walk on it because you can't. Bikes are going by you. You know, you have to get off it. They're not big, they're small usually. And that's another issue. We have safety concerns, like how can you access if there's an accident back in the bar? You know, the bike trail's going to have to be wider, just like our trail had to be made accessible for emergency vehicles and things like that. So I'm not going to do my tree hugging presentation because you all saw it. Okay.
Thank you.
To address the question about need, I would point out that Tredyffrin East, the reason we need to start a team is because the Radnor Township now, just at the high school, has 5 students that want to be involved, which forces Tredyffrin to separate us from that group. If there is no team formed, those students will have no team to be on. They will be out of a sport. Tredyffrin has been in existence for, I believe, 4 years, and they went from, I think, 10 students the first year. This year, they're expecting over 70. That's just the town next door, so obviously there's a need that's growing. Lower Merion is talking about starting a team possibly next year. They're going to be in the same boat where they're going to be forced to start a team because the interest is growing. The Pennsylvania Interscholastic Cycle League only started 5 or 6 years ago. There are already 750 students of junior high and high school age in that in only 5 years. So it is a growing sport. It's growing rapidly. You know, it's not a sport that depends on the school system to support it. As I also had forgotten to mention earlier about our utilization of the park for this is really more in the seasons when the other seasons are out of season. Our season does not start until July 1st. We're not allowed to have practices until July 1st. Most of the baseball is over by that point in time. So, you know, we would not expect to be running into a lot of other usage of the park during our practice times. We're also only talking about usually maybe 1 or 2 nights a week, primarily during the summertime. Obviously, there would be some fall usage, but we're more busy with the training sessions in the summer, so July through August, when, frankly, a lot of people are away on vacation. So, you know, those concerns. As for the location, I think one of the things that some of the folks have been bringing up is that this is a location where some of the students could get there by themselves, which addresses parking and traffic, as well as why this park. Why this park? Because there's denser population of students that would be able to utilize it from close to where they live. They're not having to travel like we do across the township from one end to the other to get to utilize it. We're certainly willing to look at other locations as well if the township feels there's another location. As for cross usage of people doing other things on the trail, we understand that somebody can come and walk on it. Our concern is that some of the suggestions have been made, like going to the Willows. Those are places where people already anticipate the primary uses for walking, and bicyclists are going to be seen as an intrusion on that trail. This has the opportunity to be seen as a bicycle trail that other people may use, but they don't have the anticipation that there aren't going to be bikes on it. I personally frequently use the Radnor Trail to walk my dog, and to be quite honest with you, there are many, many times, because it's a paved trail, there are people coming by on road bikes who are going by at 25, 30 miles an hour in certain stretches, and, you know, your dog gets out a few feet away from you and there could be, you know, a hazard. So we're really looking for a place where the kids can go and have the anticipation. It's a bike trail, not primarily a walking trail, and something that's designated for that primary use that we're willing to share with others for, but we certainly want to have a place for the kids to go. This is a mountain biking trail for the kids. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Sir, we'll get you next. I know the young lady had not spoken yet.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sharifa Brown. And first I wasn't going to say anything, but I felt like it's necessary because I have a love for the park. We all grew up there. We have memories. If that park could talk, the things it would tell you would blow your mind. And I want to say about a year or so ago, Tammy and I sat down and we discussed, the need to do something about the park. And I'm touched to see that there are so many people who have an interest in Odorrioso Park. But my concern is that the interest is not for the benefit of the people and the community that live near the park, but for an interest that would bring, as you say, an intrusion of other people to use the park. That's a concern for me, because there is no way to access Odorrioso Park without infiltrating that community. There's just no way to say that I'm going to just section off and use the park and not touch the community. It's just not possible. I know the trails. I haven't walked them for this meeting because I grew up running up and down those dangerous woods, at night, day, whatever. And it's never been a problem, but I feel like bringing in and opening up almost Pandora's box is a concern for me. It just is. You can't say the parking's not an issue. We have a small group or a medium group, I would say, that meets at the church on a weekly basis, and parking is ridiculous. And I have a yard to park in. So, if you're coming in for a couple of hours, that's fine, but you're opening up Pandora's box for the rest of us that live there all of our lives. And that's a concern for me. And I just feel like there should be a place for a great activity like this, somewhere that doesn't infiltrate a whole community. You don't have to open up our whole neighborhood for the use of or the creation of a bike trail. I feel like, and forgive me, and I'm not necessarily as affluent as the community, but I feel like there should be enough money in Radnor Township to build these people whatever it is that they want for the amount of taxes that are paid. And it should not infiltrate or make the community around it feel intruded upon. That's just my opinion. I know we spend millions of dollars on the Willows. God knows we could build something where these kids could go and ride their bikes and neighbors not feel like, oh, we got kids coming in from all over. Or I'm sorry. I don't do good because I know stuff. And I know that there's a way to do this that does not leave our community and our neighborhood naked. And I know most people wouldn't want that type of activity in their neighborhood. That's not why you moved to the suburbs. If you wanted all of that, you would move on Broad Street or some other busy area. You come to the burbs for quiet and peace, and kids make noise. That's just what they do. And if you open it up, you might be there 8 hours or 2 hours or whatever it is, but you can't patrol it when you're gone. And the rest of us as a neighborhood and a community are left to deal with the residuals of that. And that's just reality. And that, as Terry said, that's not what we want. Yeah, we want to see the park grow. We want to see it improve. When you look at the condition of the park, and Tammy knows, I have a very, fondness for the Rosemont Park. I'm just like, why our park don't look like y'all's? So I'm just saying, there's a lot of things that can be done, and I don't think that's the place to start. That's just my input on it. My family has lived in this neighborhood for over 100 years. And I just felt like I could not sit back and just be quiet and just allow it to go without it being unspoken. That yes, we want things done to the park, and yes, we want improvements, and yes, we want to be able to access nature and da-da-da-da-da, but I don't think that's the place to start. And considering the condition that it's in, I know it's not the place to start. So that's my input, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just for a moment, just address one issue that came up in that discussion. One of the things we do is we have a long-range plan looking at the parks, and I can tell you there are a number of parks that are on our hit list for major repairs, and I know we worked through Macrone, we're moving on to Fenimore Woods, and I can assure you that that is on the list, and as a user, a regular user of that park, I agree wholeheartedly. It's not quite the issue we're talking about tonight with the trail, but I know this board is sensitive to that, and certainly that's on the hit list, I'll say, to do good things there. But thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll add one more comment there. I live near Clement Crone Park, and the usage in that park since the project has been completed has probably gone up by 2 or 3 times. And it's not all township residents using that park now. I know people come in from many other communities that use that park as well. So anytime we do improve a park, you're going to see more usage, and your local community is going to see more traffic and more people coming through, et cetera. So you can kind of look at some of these improvements as a double-edged sword that we all have to discuss and figure out what's the best thing for an individual park and individual community. We're all part of that community as Radnor Township residents. Sir?
I've heard the word trash, so I have to defend.
Sir, I'm sorry. Could you come up to the microphone, please? We're on television, so
Okay.
fix your hair there, right?
I've heard the word trash, and I have to defend this thing. Me and my wife, we've taken bags and gone and picked up in the park. This is how close I am to this park. As you say, I step out the door, I'm in the parking lot. Okay? I do my best, man, I do. I try to clean up around there, and sometimes, and I've gotten the kids from the basketball court to help me pick this stuff up. My wife has too. All right? So yeah, it gets trashy because of people that are there. They walk right by the trash can, boom, throw it on the ground. That's just the nature of things that's going on today.
Right.
And I try to do my best to clean this thing up and make it look nice for everybody else. But I'm just asking for what we need to do here. And I'm going to ask you to think real serious on this, and not just because of some single thing that wants to be done. That's why I asked you, did you knock on anybody's door that surrounded that park? Okay?
Great.
I'm done.
Thank you, sir.
And can I say one thing real quick, just before
Sure.
you speak? I do believe that the gentleman was talking about the trash that's in the wooded area, right? Because there are alcohol bottles back there and deep in those woods. And Mr. Lindsay, I had a conversation with him yesterday, and he's told me frequent times that some of the things that go on in that park, and he's right. You step right out of his door, and he's right in the park area there. So he's got a good view of what language is being used on the basketball court, what kids are being, doing there even after dark. So he's got a very good view of the happenings in that area. So I just wanted to say that also. Thank you.
Thanks, Howard.
Hi, Susie Bruns, the mom to a couple of the kids. And I want to let you know, it moves. I want to let you know it moves. We knocked on the doors of the people that border the woods, because that's the area that we've been looking at, is the wooded area. And we went and we hit every door to every property around the wooded area, okay? As far as it goes in general, we do look at it as a multi-use trail. because we look at it as an asset to the entire community. I had the pleasure of walking the woods with Claire this week, and the area closest to the basketball court and the area by the cliff is a very different sense than when you get deeper into the park and you see the vines and how they're pulling down trees, and even in the path that was cut, a huge tree branch laying right in the middle of it again, because it's been pulled down. The reason we have come now is so that we could, number one, kids it's important to me that they ask for permission, and that's why they've come. They haven't come just for going and doing without permission. They've asked for permission. And in that process, this is not an easy decision. There's going to be someone that gets what they want, and there's going to be someone that doesn't get what they want. However, it's very important in our program that they ask for permission and they don't just go and cut a path wherever they want. But it's important that we start laying out that path now because of what is starting to grow. We saw some of the markings that I think you had made the other day. However, I'll tell you, that's nowhere near where we were looking for a trail. As Claire and I were walking, I passed 1 Trillium. There's quite a bit of room between trees, deeper into the park. So we wouldn't have to necessarily be going over tree roots. And the thing with a trail is it does keep people to the trail, which there's something to be said for that as well. It is a public park. We could all go and use it however we want, by walking wherever we want. But a trail does keep you to a path. And that is, that's a very important lesson in stewardship of conservation, so that you aren't trampling where you shouldn't be trampling. There is wildlife there. Claire and I had the pleasure of startling the neighborhood deer. It was still quite a distance from us. And again, not necessarily where we'd be looking at putting the trail directly where it was laying down. It's closer to what it would be one of the wet areas of the wooded lot. But we saw a beautiful pileated woodpecker. Again, I didn't want to walk closer to it, but anytime you're walking through those areas, you will disturb whatever wildlife there is, whether you are there on your mountain bike or whether you are there hiking and walking or running. That's what will happen. So at some point, a decision will need to be made, and we'll respect whatever that decision is. I appreciate that you may be looking at other options. However, we will also probably want to have input into that, because there are parts that are not appropriate for the skill level that we need to be building. Ithan Valley is not really an option. I am very afraid of the willows because of the condition of the current trails, and that's without a lot of mountain bike use, which I hear a lot going on about how damaging mountain bikes are to trails. However, studies show they are no more damaging than hiking, than walking, than running. And so I don't want to be going into an area that already has significant problems and exacerbating that, because the pedestrians in the willows are doing a good enough job exacerbating some of those trails. We are really looking at this as an opportunity for the West Wayne community. That is our community as well. Over the years, I've felt welcome at that playground. That was my kids' preferred playground as children. It does kind of break my heart a little bit to maybe not feel welcome, and I hate to say it that way, but coming here tonight, that was where we like to come, because we do live right down the road. I am friends with many in that community, several in that community, and we are respectful of what's going on. I have been sitting on Wayne Presbyterian's committee for the RTCA, and I'm aware of what's going on in that community center, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity that will provide for the Highland Ave community. And I look at this nature trail as another opportunity. When we drove by one day, I saw a family walking from the basketball court to the playground. And it brought back that sense of, I wish there had been a nature trail for me to walk through with my kids, because I think it just would have been great. And I look at it as an opportunity. And yes, there could be that more traffic that comes in. As far as the mountain bikers go, the team, the 80 hours that we're talking about, a fair majority of them will look at it, the ride to the park as their warm-up. That ride home will be their cool down. Parents may come and pick them up, may come and drop them off. There's no events, there's no games, there's not really a reason for parents to stick around. So that's kind of what I'm here for right now, is to say, you know, I don't envy that at some point you need to make a decision. We are looking for that permission to get in to try to figure out where a trail could go so that the impact is as minimal as can be, because now is the time that stuff is growing. We would like to have something in place somewhere for July. There are enough kids that we will have a team, whether it's with the support of the township or not. We'll find somewhere, because these kids want to. The crew, they can't ride, they can't row in Radnor Township. It would be disappointing that our township doesn't support the youth, but they're committed enough to it, they'll find somewhere to go. It would just be a disappointment for that generation as they're looking. That's all I have to say.
Oh, before you go, I have a question. How long do you think it will take to build? I mean, if this were to go through, how long would it take to build it from start to finish? How many days, how many weeks, how many?
Well, until we get in there and we really see where we're going, we don't know what we'd be dealing with. So I hate to say I don't know. In our head, it's multiple, you know, nights, weekends, the kids contributing hours. It's how many kids we would have out there helping us. It's if other community members would be getting involved. There were 400 collective hours for Two Different to put in their mile plus hauling out of trash, the organic material, but as well as what they found. And I think they even found a much worse scenario than what there is in Odoricio as far as dumping went. But right, we saw paint buckets, we saw plastic, flower pots in the woods the other day. There is debris inside. I do want to say though, I filled my pockets around the basketball court, so I'm really glad I found a buddy in my just picking up trash as I go. Sadly, I also found a shotgun shell, which that really was disturbing to me. But and I'm really sorry about that. But I did pick it up. So all right.
I've just got a quick question. How long, as far as miles, is the trail? I mean,
our
zigzagging
ideal
and
would be
everything.
about a mile, but until we have that permission to really kind of get in there.
Right.
And that would be somewhat probably inclusive of if we can get around the fields, the quarry road, as they call it, that the school district owns. So this is it would include that and up the hill down what has been cleared already is what we envision, and then some back and forth within the woods and back up to that grass section that was cleared is our mental thought right now. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, it's not very steep.
I'm sorry.
That's right.
And it's the area is beautiful. Don't get me wrong, and the length. I'm just looking at it like from where I was looking at the top of the hill. When I was looking down, I was looking, wow, it doesn't seem to be that big to me. That's why I said, it just seemed like a little bit compact.
Most 10, 12 plus acre lots, a mile seems to be the average of what can be put into that area, so that it's not completely filling that area, but that it's enough to do down and back around, and kind of a circuitous spot. Does that make sense? Yeah. A mile seems a lot, but then when you go and do it, it isn't necessarily. Right. Yeah. Right. Right.
Especially when you get on the bike, you know.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Well, even walking, that's from our house into Wayne, not
Yeah.
even quite. And so it's pretty quick.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you.
We're going to allow a couple more comments on this, and then we're going to cut
I
it
just
off.
want to answer a question. You asked about how much work needs to be done, and timeline, and then also what it looks like. I actually was in the park today, took a picture thinking it was a people trail when I realized it was a deer path. That's when you see the deer path in there, that's essentially what a mountain bike trail will look like, except that, as the coach from TE explained last time, we just clear an overhead and width sort of from things hanging over that's about the size of a door. So it's not like we're chopping down trees, ripping up roots. We're in many cases, we'll actually leave branches there because the kids learn to ride over them. These the new bicycles can clear obstacles that are pretty amazing. It's not like the bikes you and I rode as kids. So it's not like we're doing a lot of construction. It's more clearing generally so they can have a clear, safe path. And again, it would look more or less like a deer trail as far as what you see on the ground. We're not clearing out down to bare dirt. More or less, the kids riding the path will create a little bit of that. But again, it'll look essentially like a deer path. So just answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I have another real concern. I think that the township is going to have to look at allowing a group to construct their own trail. I think there's a lot of parameters that if you open that door, how are you going to stop another group from doing what they want to do in the park or build what they think is appropriate in the park? And of course, what they're doing is not harming nature at all. Deer don't even move branches. I think after they ride on this trail a while, it will not have any grass on it, the long hill. I think that if they bounce over tree roots, those tree roots will be broken, and trees are all interconnected. I think there's a lot of issues the board has to look at, and I think one of the ones that the group has just brought up is I think even allowing a group to build their own trail is sort of unusual.
Mark Hirschler, I'm in Wayne. I just wanted to answer that question as well for the woman who just came up. If you are familiar with the Willows as well as the Ithan Parks, all of those trails were actually made by the Boy Scouts. So as you know, this was actually another group of people that wanted to do better for the community. So again, I think that this is a win-win situation for everybody around. I think that the neighborhood's probably saying, I don't want it in my backyard, but I think that it's going to be utilized for probably everybody. As we can see through the Willows as well as through the Radnor Trail, it's only brought better things to Radnor Township. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Isaac Denham. I live on Conestoga and run one of the bike shops in town. But really speaking, as a Conestoga resident, right pretty close to the neighborhood that this trail would be in, I look to places like McCaig Nature Center, which have a trail system and 0 parking. And I think about my property values and I'm like, man, I think I do want a trail, or I want something where there can be a nature trail, because that all of a sudden becomes another element where in the neighborhood immediately surrounding, that's another feature for those houses. So I've heard a couple of people say oh, well, we don't really want it in our neighborhood. But again, people didn't want the Radnor Trail in their neighborhood, and then, homes values went way up. So I think it would be good to have that area cleaned out. You know, and it occurred to me that, again, people could be going back there doing what have you. If there is a trail, certainly people tend to stay on it, in my experience. You know, the Willows has trails, but you don't see people off of them typically very often. So as a Radnor resident who lives pretty close to that neighborhood, you know, a block or two away on Conestoga, I think of that as being something that just, again, selfishly for my property value and like for things that I would like in the neighborhood, like I think that would be a good thing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Last one.
Just as another maybe point of reference, Belmont Plateau in Philadelphia also had an extensive foot trail only network in it. A lot of trash, a lot of questionable people doing questionable things back there. They now use it for high school cross country as well as mountain biking trails that have gone in there as well. And there are no more washing machines back there, and the place is a lot cleaner and clearer and for better use than it was before when it was unused and unmonitored. So it just occurred to me. So thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. All right, I think. Sure. Yeah, okay.
Everyone else in the room has.
Yeah.
So I'm Parker Bruns. I was one of the presenters last week. I just wanted to tell you my story and why this means so much to me. So I've been on a bike since I was 2. And I have so many memories riding a bike and being on a bike that having a bike trail would mean a lot to me. And with that, I forget when I was diagnosed with depression, but I was diagnosed with depression. And mountain biking has helped that and helped me feel better through rough times. And it's also one of the things that helps me get me off my phone. And there's so much that I can do with mountain biking that is just really important to me. So.
Great. Thank you, Parker.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap up this conversation. I think we've heard a lot of good feedback from a lot of different constituents, and I appreciate all the time that you all have taken to come and share those tonight, as well as my board members up here and their thoughts, et cetera. It's a lot to digest. I think one of the challenges, Susie, that you've got with your group is the timing that you're looking for, and I think it's pretty evident from how the conversations are going that there are still some avenues that need to be explored and discussed with neighbors, with some folks with some environmental questions about the impacts and things like that. And although I don't think we're ready at this board level to consider any kind of a proposal, and as you may or may not know, this board does not make any decisions. All this board does is make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners, who make all the decisions in this township. So I guess I would encourage you and your group to maybe do a little more due diligence with some of the feedback that you've heard this evening over the course of the last couple of weeks. I know that's probably not an answer that you'd like to hear considering your timing, but I think there's a lot of really strong components to what you're thinking about doing and proposing. I'm encouraged to hear some positive feedback as well as some of the feedback that has questions or concerns about it. And there's people in this room and in this community that you can reach out to try and address some of those things, in my opinion. So I'd encourage you to do some more work along that avenue. Myself and anybody on this board is happy to be involved with that process, et cetera. But I think we'll table it until next month and see what kind of progress is made from that standpoint, if that's okay with everybody on this board. And again, please feel free to reach out to any of us, but I think there's still some work to be done so that we have something that hopefully would be acceptable to as many parties as possible.
Excuse me, Chris. Could we begin discussions for I guess for the next meeting for Arterisio Park, for the project for, I forget the word for it, to address the conditions at Arterisio Park for the upkeep of it or whatever. For future discussions, I guess, could we start that, put that on the agenda for next month?
Oh, for other
Arterisio.
improvements at Odoricio?
Yeah. If it's possible to put it on for.
Yeah, let's talk offline, Howard,
Okay,
about that,
all right.
and involve Tammy and understand a little bit about what things we're talking about, because we haven't had a lot of discussions about Odoricio. So let's talk about that, and if we need to put that on as a new business item for the agenda for next month, we
Okay.
certainly can do that. Yeah, great, thank you. Next item on our agenda under old business is the Emlyn Tunnel Park Comfort Station project update. As John mentioned earlier, the Board of Commissioners approved our recommendation to move forward with the purchase of the building over there. Tammy, I'm sure you're going to move forward on that. Is there anything else relative to that we should be aware of tonight? I think it's a process that has to happen, and I know we have to go back to the school district to get their approval before moving forward once we have the final drawings, et cetera. Is there anything else we need to talk about tonight?
No, the only thing I could say, I know I get asked by a lot of people, when's it going to be built? At the very earliest, it would be fall. There is an extensive process in terms of the building's design and review, and all the final site engineering and building engineering needs to unfold, and then
If you need anything else from this body, you'll bring it before us, obviously, but the process is moving forward, which is good news for
Yep.
all of us from our standpoint.
I received the purchase order today for the
Great.
building, so
Okay.
we have that, and it's moving, and
Excellent.
we'll check in each month
Great.
on the project and how it's moving along.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Beau Connor Warren Phillip Home Park improvements. And Tammy, I was just hoping you might be able to give us a 3 to 4 minute update on where that stands and what's next on that venue.
I anticipate that project, which is a comprehensive project with the two parks combined, which we reviewed, I believe, in July, and had some subsequent discussions, should go to bid next Wednesday or the following Wednesday. So that'll go out to bid. It'll be out to bid for about a month. And then the hope is by June, we can award the bid and then the Board of Commissioners, of course, would be the ones who would obviously authorize that, and then start to discuss what the construction schedule will be.
Okay. And so there's nothing else you need from this board with regard to that process? I mean, that process is going to move forward once you go to bid, assuming the bids come back within the guidelines of the money that's been appropriated?
Yes, and there were a lot of alternates built into that with the hope that that is the case. Obviously, we can't always predict that, so we'll hope that maybe we can begin construction again, hopefully fall as well, maybe even earlier. I don't want to predict. Every time you do, you kind of get off schedule or something happens to sort of jinx that. So, but it's exciting. It was an exciting week.
Yep, great. Okay, thank you. Anything else on old business from the board that anybody like to bring up?
Chris, I have one item you might be interested in.
Yes, sir.
Yesterday, I guess it was, we submitted another grant for the trail extension. I think I mentioned last month, Bob Thomas had identified that there was room adjacent to the trail from the crest of Radnor, Chester Road, to go down onto the trail there. So this grant is to build that ramp in addition to the other work we've done. That would allow us to avoid the extremely high cost of the underpass,
Right.
which has been the impediment. And we're also looking at another real estate option, so I really can't discuss it, that would assist in this project.
Any place for the kids to ride their bikes back there?
You bet. Martha Brown's Woods.
School district owned
Do we
property,
own-
too.
School district, we don't own that property.
Chew and Young on the other side, right?
On the other
There's a
side of 30.
Bunch of places, yeah.
Okay, well, something maybe to talk about offline. Great, thank you, John.
Yeah, we could bring that back to the school.
New business. I had just asked Tammy to put on new business a note about recycling within the township in general and township parks. Tammy had sent out a link, I believe, this week. I don't know how many of you had a chance to watch that short video about the changing world of recycling. I was personally shocked to read about that and how some of those changes are going on. And I really just wanted to highlight that for this board because I think it's important. It's going to affect our township and our costs going forward. I didn't really have an agenda to talk about that, but I know that Gretchen, you had a hopefully short presentation with regard to recycling.
Gretchen, just before you begin, first of all, I gave you all a copy of that article, so if you get a chance, read it. It's from the National Recreation Parks Association, so it's not just some random, off the beaten track type of, article. It comes with reliability and credibility. We are a member of the NRPA, so I receive a lot of their monthly information. Chris, as you said, there's some sort of bleak information with regards to the future of recycling, which is concerning. Obviously, it's not a primary issue for this board to address, but the township at large. But with regards to some of the outlooks in terms of recycling, I know it's something that parks and recreation agencies within the nation are trying to be part of a positive impact on change and, eliciting modifications to the things that they're doing. Not going to be able to solve all the problems with recycling, but at least to be a positive impact. And it's not just recycling. It's about reusing items. It's about reducing items. We saw earlier with the egg hunt, one of our big goals coming out of 2018 as a department was to start to eliminate a lot of the single-use plastics with regards to our events. At our community events, we've had cases and cases of water that bottles of water that we've made available to folks over the years. That's something we want to reduce, and one of our goals we talked about in December when I showed you a presentation was that we want to try and cut that back and think of different and creative ways that we can still provide water, but not using like you take the fall harvest event, for example, and there's 1,500 water bottles that are being used, and most of them are found scattered, of course, throughout the park and end up in the trash half utilized. With regards to the egg hunt, we actually had a 40% reduction of the eggs from last year. So we were down 17,000 eggs from what we had in 2018 for the 2019 event. And being at the event on Sunday, when you looked out across the field, you didn't really notice. Sadly, you didn't notice. So that means we're going to reduce next year by a significant amount. And hopefully in between that time, there's a company that comes out that actually invents some type of a paper type of egg that is pre-filled that allows us to do the same thing that we do. I know in the article, one of the interesting things it talks about is egg hunts and using folded up pieces of paper with trinkets and toys and stickers inside.
You can do it for next year, Tammy. Paper eggs.
I really don't think our department can fold 40,000 pieces of paper, but we'll hope that a company out there can do it, and we can certainly
Have an origami
fundraise to be able to pay for it.
Yeah. So
But just and then I actually asked Gretchen to come tonight because Radnor Conservancy has had impeccable leadership in this area. They unveiled a pilot program at Beau Connor and Moore and Philippone Park. I know you're going to talk a little bit about that, where they purchased recyclable cans for the park and kicked off a program in hopes that it's something that can be carried on into the future. And of course, as we move forward, we're going to continue to look at lots of new and creative ideas. So again, so we can be part of the change, part of the solution, if you will.
right. And again, I think it's not a mission of this board, it's a mission of every board within Radnor to be aware of this situation and this issue. And Tim, I think we're going to hopefully try and get Steve here for one of our future meetings to talk a little bit more about the impact in public works with some of these changes in recycling, et cetera. So, Gretchen, I'll turn it over to you.
So I'm Gretchen Grobel, the Executive Director of Radnor Conservancy, and we have been involved in recycling efforts probably for, it's a big part of what we've been focusing on for the last couple of years. I'm going to play a short video, I promise, that two Radnor High School interns 2 years ago put together. Hopefully it will work. So just it just kind of gives you some basics. Yes, they did. Yeah, they did a great job. All right, let's see if I can. So the choices the choices you make can make a big difference. And every time we walk into the store, we're making choices. So one of the biggest things is trying to convince people to not use plastic bags, plastic grocery bags, and to instead bringing a reusable bag. And I have to be honest, it took me, we're so ingrained in going to, it just depends on where you shop. I used to shop at the Giant a lot, and I had to stop myself. I mean, it took a while to make the switch to, not using plastic. So this is a, like a really, really big thing that, I think that is very important that we push this messaging throughout the township, is to encourage people to bring reusable bags. And it is about changing a habit that you've, used for a long time. And recycling in a smarter way. You'll see a picture, a couple of pictures in a moment. I have probably 3 times as much recycling versus my trash. So I have 3 containers of recycling, and I've noticed just driving around that, so I took these pictures this morning. People have a lot of recycling, and sometimes they only have 1 plastic bin, and they're putting their recyclables in a white plastic trash bag. And they don't know that when the public works guys pick up the trash, all of our recyclables go on Thursdays and Fridays, go to Republic Services. The guys at Republic Services can't see what's in those white bags, and they're not going to risk, pulling those bags apart and sorting everything. So anything that's in a white, enclosed in a black or a white plastic trash bag goes to a landfill. So 15 to 20% of what we are recycling within the township is not being recycled properly, so it's making its way to a landfill, which is unfortunate. But I think that we can, with better messaging and reaching out to the community, we can, make a difference. Plastic bags need to go back to a grocery store or Wawa. The image on the left, this is at Wawa. I don't know that all Wawas have this. This is at the Wawa that was renovated, but the slot in the middle, you just shove your plastic bags in there. And this picture's from Giant. It's very simple, but you just you bring your plastic bags and deposit them in there, so you can really do this. And there are other stores that take this back, but these are kind of the bigger grocery stores. And Mom's, I don't know if everyone's familiar with Mom's Organic Market in Bryn Mawr. They have, in the front of their store, they have an incredible, the picture on the right, I mean, they have things broken down to where, like salty chip bags. That's where you can bring your shoes back, your corks. So if you really, want to get down to the minutia of recycling, they recycle everything. So And I just mentioned earlier, all of our recycling goes to Republic Services in King of Prussia. And let's see, I spoke to the guy there today. I was curious where, so the image on the right is, these are the trash bags or the items that were contaminated. You are supposed to recycle, fairly. You don't want, like peanut butter. It needs to be clean. It doesn't have to be spotless, but the container should not be contaminated with food or a lot of grease. So I was curious where, things that are contaminated, or if they're not, if they're in a trash bag, where do they go? Because it's 15 to 20% of our recycling. And so it goes to a Conestoga landfill in Morgantown. But plastic grocery bags are Republic Services' #1 biggest problem about getting their machinery clogged. So it's a problem, because everywhere you go, you're offered a plastic bag. So I was in town, this was a couple of months ago, and I just took this picture, and this is a commercial dumpster, and residential recycling is different than, so businesses are required, businesses in Radnor Township are required to contract their own trash and recycling. So I don't know how that's monitored, but so I just said, what's wrong with this picture? And this looks, like a commercial dumpster, but they're kind of co-mingling stuff that looks like it could be recycled just into a dumpster. So. And so I was just thinking about parks in our business district, that we don't have, we don't really have, visible recycling containers. So one thing that I've noticed in the past month, driving through Bryn Mawr, is that they have, they've installed, and I was on the phone with their public works supervisor today, they've invested in 8 they're called Big Belly recycling containers. So this is a trial that Lower Marion has invested in. It's a big investment, $56,000 for these 8, but it's in the business district, and I think Ardmore is next on their hit list. But it's important, and because we need to think about the public. They need the opportunity. We need to offer the opportunity for them. If there's only a trash can there, they're going to throw their waste or their water bottle in the trash can. If they don't have a recycling can to put it in, they're probably going to, that's an assumption. But I feel like, we have to give them the opportunity to, put it in the right place. So in the fall, the Conservancy and the Township had a discussion about doing a trial for some new recycling bins in the parks, in the ballparks. So Jake Abel had said, I know that Warren Philippone and Beau Connor are, highly used ballparks. So we decided to kind of target those parks as a trial. And I checked in with the Public Works manager and a couple of weeks ago, and he said even though the season hadn't really started. He said people are recycling properly. He's not seeing, trash being shoved in the, it may help that the, I don't know if you can see that. So it's just for it just says bottles and cans. So, so I'm pleased that that's going well. And improve our communities, encourage schools and businesses to make changes and collaborate. I think we have a huge, huge opportunity, especially with the school district. It has been a pleasure working with some of the Radnor High School interns over the past couple of years. 3 girls worked on a project sorry. Yes. I was just saying it's been a pleasure working with interns, and they're not all from Radnor High School, but 3 girls from Radnor High School worked on a project last summer that they were trying to just get better visibility within the high school for what can be recycled, what can't be recycled, what's waste, because they were saying they were so frustrated that everything, recyclables were just ending up in the trash. So they created a really nice visual poster. I think it could be bigger, but it's a great tool, and I think that if it's gotten positive feedback, then there's a possibility that we should roll this out to all of our schools, because it's not just the high school students that are buying water bottles. So I'm just going to pass this around. And I just wanted to, and I have one of these for everyone, Radnor Township Recycling Guidelines, and this has been also an ongoing intern project that it's a continual, so we're continuing to update this.
Gretchen, the board does have copies of all those. I gave them the packet.
Great. And it was great that this went to all of the township residents in either I think it was a sewer bill or a tax bill or something. So, so if people have suggestions, this is kind of
It's continuing education.
Yes.
Continuing education.
Yeah, so it's always
And
evolving.
I got that in my sewer bill, and I learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
And I've changed my habits as a result, which is great.
And even in the video, there were a number of things that said they can't be recycled. On the back, I mean, there are places, there's sources on the back, it's called TerraCycle. You can get them to send you a special box to put styrofoam in. If you make the decision that you don't want that styrofoam to end up in a landfill, they can send you a box, you put it in there, and I don't know if they pay for the postage, but there are places that will recycle down to the very minute things. So this is a really good resource. But I just brought I brought recyclable bags for everyone, just because I want, if you're still using plastic,
So Gretchen, I was looking at that bag, and I got to tell you that I'm enough of a man that I would have no problem carrying that bag around,
good.
but Bill is going to need something a little more masculine to carry into the grocery store. So if you get something that's blue with maybe a football player on there, something like that, I think Bill would be.
I was just going to
Keep my eyes peeled.
I was just going to comment that I was in California visiting my daughter, and it's nice to go there and you say, I don't want a bag, that they
Yeah.
appreciative. I went into a Wawa today, and I
Yeah.
had someone look at me like I had 7 heads, and I said, "It's okay. I'll carry the 3 items in my arm." So
But
it's enough out of you.
But maybe the next time you guys go to the grocery store, so straws. So there are options for plastic straws, and I am seeing more that restaurants in town are offering. They're either not offering a straw or they're offering a paper straw. And yes, they are more expensive, but you know, you have to kind of it's kind of changing a mindset. And, you know, there's recyclable toilet paper. I didn't buy any to show, but, you know, there's kitchen bags that are compostable. So there are items out there that are, you know, much more healthy. So, and I just wanted to make a plea to the gentlemen that are on the school board. I just think this might be a really interesting thing to think about. We probably sell so many water bottles. It's single use. You use it once, it goes right into the trash. I wonder, I mean, what if we got rid of this, and this is what we sold as an option in the school? I mean, this was an expensive bottle, a reusable bottle, but you know, if we could contract out and, you know, somehow get a $5 or $6 water bottle that said Radnor School District or whatever, we could, you know, and this is what we encouraged, you know, if kids didn't, you know, at the beginning of the year they got one, and for some reason they forgot one, they could buy it on their lunch account, and this is what we, you know, like kind of, this is like a change that we've made across the, so I'm gonna give you guys these.
Mr. Campbell with his single-use water bottle could use one.
Do it. Oh, yeah, of course. Look, Chuck, they're monogrammed, too. No, just kidding.
One of the things we also had at the spring extravaganza is Whole Foods had contributed like 500 of those. So we handed them out. We actually been handing them out over the last 2 years.
They did not want to give me a discount at all today.
They contributed them last year for us.
That's great.
And I can tell you, Gretchen, all of my kids and all of their friends have the stainless steel bottles. They all have them, and each of the different clubs and sports, they give them out. We have dozens of them in our house, so the education's paying off a little bit.
Thanks, Gretchen. Chris, I might add, 2 meetings ago, the
Thank you, Gretchen.
Board of Commissioners discussed single-use plastics, and we referred that topic to the EAC and asked them to investigate it, because as you know, some local communities have started to ban them.
Right. Okay, good to know. Thank you, John.
But I mean, just like the bottle thing. I mean, I just think, why not? Why, you know, it's like, we have a lot of kids in all of our schools, and that would think about all of these water bottles.
Well, I do believe that we do have fill stations at our
Yes.
schools. I don't know to the extent,
Yeah,
but we
I
will
don't know
gladly
either.
look into that.
Yeah.
And if we can possibly look at maybe increasing them if they need to be increased. I do know, because I substitute at Conestoga High School, and almost all their kids carry these.
Yeah.
And they have fill stations all over the high school.
The Radnor kids as well.
And Radnor
They all have, And they have little lanyards and whatnot to attach them to their backpacks, and
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
very well used.
Well, we are here to collaborate with you guys, so I just, whatever we can do to,
Thanks to the
help the
Conservancy.
community.
Sorry,
just-
Gretchen. I was going to say, thanks for the donation of the
Oh,
recycles.
sure.
It's wonderful.
And I've been talking about, and this is going to happen probably in the next couple of months, but we want to do the same thing, do a trial for the business district. So we had mentioned that we're willing to purchase probably 5 or 6 recycling containers. They would be kind of an upgrade from that. That was more kind of for like a ball field. But I think we have to offer people a place to recycle, and it just makes sense in the business district when people are eating and drinking and all that good stuff. So, thank you.
And the Conservancy had volunteered to provide the cans for Fenimore Woods, too, when we complete that project, correct?
Are you twisting my? I see you're.
No, I thought,
Twisting my arm.
hey, if it's working at Fenimore and it's working at Philippone, let's.
Tammy, we're spending $1.6 million. I think we can buy a couple recycling cans over there, okay?
I have to see your tree maintenance plan first.
Yeah, right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Anything else before this board this evening? I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you.